the trickiest circuit known to human history, paired up and challenged with a car that wants to throw you off at every single corner. A place which, for the longest time in this championship, was known as the finale. Today is the moving day, and everyone wants to position themselves in the iRacing Radical E Cup at the toughest circuit of the world, the Nürburgring Nordschleife. Welcome one and all to action here on iRacing and on Racebot TV. My name's Jake Sperry, Jeremy Scott along with me for today's action. Jeremy, a circuit so big and so challenging that they don't even get the opportunity to qualify in the same session that they race. That's what pre-qualifying is all about. But today is all about who lasts their distance on a gauntlet of 4 laps around this incredible racing circuit known as a legacy and a monolith of time.
Well, they don't call it the Green Hell for nothing because, look, I mean, if you want to win anywhere in iRacing, it's here. We had the 24 Hours of Nürburgring just a couple of weeks ago, which brought out some of the best in sports car racing for the service. And now we head here to the Nordschleife. And, of course, the driver's only going to get 1 lap of practice. And like you said, Jake, 4 laps of racing. Anywhere else, it's like, oh, it's just 4 laps. But here, it is absolute might and will to finish here, at least win.
Yeah, and they'll also have to understand that after this will be the Adelaide Street Circuit, which will end out the season that has been to many incredible places. It's seen Suzuka, it's seen Spa, VIR's been on the board, Laguna Seca, Silverstone. It's been a who's who list of where to go out there in the racing calendar, and this Nordschleife, I think, just takes the cake. And with this being the strongest strength of field we've seen in a while, this is critical for the iRacing Championship points, which we will keep a very, very close eye out on as far as they stand. Horvath Gulliksen on top, and on top by 120 over James Barry. But here's the key. Andre Castro, yes, back nearly 360 points, but has also got drop rounds where Horvath Gulliksen doesn't. So Andre Castro can score big here tonight, and he could be vaulting his way up to challenge for the overall title. Kjetil Larsen finds himself in 4th with Heinz Braun 5th and George Gonzaga in 6th position. It then leads with Rafa Blanco and Peter Evagni, with Robert Woodward and Marcos Roca making up the field of the official. In your Racebot standings for where they have been running over the course of this season and where they wanted to challenge, as we will actually look over to the grid, because we'll only get a 1-minute grid up here for this race. It will be as they have qualified. We will talk about those Racebot standings a little bit later on. Andre Castro with a 618.3 is on top, with Lucas Vieira alongside for company. James Barry will have Philip Vondenherk then in 4th position. It's then Heinz Braun and Horvath Gulliksen 5th and 6th. Rafa Blanco will start 7th with Eduardo Roca and Kjetil Larsen, as Cairo Enns will go from 10th. John Pettick and Michi Stangl will make up the 6th row. Robert Woodward will then have Juan Perez, with George Gonzaga and Dennis Kiriakopoulos. Chris Rett and Charlie Devlin make up 18, with Mika Henrik Hultkanen there for the SRMHH Racing team, making up the 19 here on the split grid that we have here today. Only the best of the best have had the opportunity to get themselves up on this grid, and they know that it's a very short run to the Sabine Schmitz curve and a trial by fire, as racing like this tends to get itself started. So, with the lights on and with the gantry set and ready, it's Andre Castro who's got the best position of anybody to go and make this work. Here are the lights, and we're underway. And Lucas Vieira immediately sees himself covered off on the get-go as they jam onto the brakes for the first time through the Sabine Schmitz curve and down the hill, pushing over towards Hutzenbach and Hockenchen, as they look to try and get themselves into position. A nice clean start through the front 6 as they all work through. Gulliksen losing one off the start, as to did Vondenherk. Rafa Blanco got a great launch, the Uruguayan.
Yeah, so far so good as they work their way through the first couple of corners. Castro trying to hold on to that 0.3 of a second lead. And you mentioned he's got those drop weeks. Well, doesn't hurt when you're up at the front of your real-life series. We got a problem at the back where Woodward has spun off and now has parked himself on the circuit. Not sure what happened there, but he's quickly falling back through the field as Stangl and Roca are battling for position right now. But Vieira trying to hold off James Berry as Castro right now is losing ground to Vieira. Vieira's going to look there side by side for position, and that's just how it's going to be. A lot of these cars are going to be able to draft off one another, but Castro gets the better of the two of them as he taps on the brakes. Roca's really falling back through the field as well, Jake.
Yeah, so it's going to be tough work here for Eduardo Roca to get himself up through. There was the contact between Robert Woodward and Charlie Devlin, and Charlie Devlin I don't think was close enough to make that lunge down the inside. He's the sort of sim racer as Charlie Devlin, Jeremy, where every single move out there, he has to make it. He doesn't have an off switch. And there's a penalty for Cairo Ends.
Yeah, not surprised to see a penalty for that one either way. It's going to be interesting to see how Ends can capitalize on top of this, because that's essentially game ender when you have 4 laps of action here at the Nürburgring. As you see right now, you're on board with Lucas Vieira, and Vieira trying to close in on Castro, but he's got Barry and Braun right behind him as well. So it's a nice tight battle there for the bottom 2 steps of the podium early on. Run to 18, as he said, Woodward already out of this race. 2 damage to continue, which is a shame in and of itself. But gotta say this, Jake, so far so good if you're the rest of the 18 cars.
Well, split them up. 8 and 10 as far, or 8 and 9 as it goes, because Shettle Larson is on the back of the main pack at the moment. Cairo Ends, who has the penalty for not serving a slowdown effectively, will now be ahead of Michi Stangl and John Pethick, who will be leading that second group. We talk about slipstream being strong in these cars. We feel them from anywhere about 2 seconds on back, but the focus is going to be when you make that move, because you've got 2 great places on this Nordschleife to go and make the passes. One of them is along this backstretch run right now through the Lauda Links over towards Klossenthal on the move curve, and the second section is going to be the Dottinger Herd over at the end of the lap. Cairo Ends will see them lining up behind us for the race lead. Here comes Lucas Vieira moving to the outside, which should turn to the inside for the move curve. Andre Castro is going to lift off and let him have it and realise, look, I'll let you have it now because you're going to go off the road. And Castro says, yoink, stole that one back. Oh, Stangl.
Yeah, it's about the same place we saw Vieira go off, so no surprise there that there'd be a problem. I was kind of surprised they were able to keep that group there at the bottom. We were able to keep it together, but now we see Devlin making his way around around position right now as they work their way through the carousel at the top part of your screen. We'll have to see Ends just come in, because look, he's got no other opportunity to pit. And a little bit of contact there with Roca as he's going to fall back 2 spots. So Gonzaga part of that, and a little bit of argy-bargy here in this this back of the pack, because look, I mean, you need to get up front and really get stuff going. But Jake, I think they're getting their elbows out just a little too early.
Yeah, Roca got in deep and ultimately finds himself falling backwards because of it. So really tough for the Joker machine to basically run on back, and now has got some very heavy damage that's going to drop him out of contention here. Stangl still trying to hold here, the likes of Breton Gonzaga, who runs wide down the hill there, trying to run up over the top then off of Vipperman and Esbach, now looking to try and run down to Brunchen corner. The leading group already out of there and heading towards Flansgarten now. This fantastic bumpy section of circuit we will focus on in 4th place with Heinz Braun, who's going to want to get himself a good run here, because they know that it's going to be a tactical affair on the Dottinger Herd. And with a group like this, it's not just where you are, it's when you are.
And that's the key right there, especially because you're going to have that long run down to the finish once we get to that final lap. So if I'm Vieira, Perry, or Braun, I'm sizing up what I can and can't do in that final lap. You've only got a couple of opportunities to really chase down and try to see what happens. But here's the problem: Vieira and Perry have to catch up to Castro sooner rather than later, as see a little bit of battle for position right back there. I think that was Rafa Blanco closing in on Heinz Braun, and indeed that was, but Braun doing what he can to stay there. Vanderherk also right under that rear wing, and now, Jake, we get into the slipstream for a lot of these drivers, so you're going to see these tight battles. Here's a replay of the Roca incident through carousel.
Yeah, it was one half a move over that didn't quite work. It was the second half of more trouble. Brought 3-1. Oh, my goodness. All the way. 2 tyres in the grass. Magnificent 3-wide from Rafa Blanco trying to chuck it. There goes Lucas Vieira up to the race lead. Now they lean on each other, and it's going to get busy here. Heinz Braun up to third. Oh, there's trouble. There, Vandenhert gets into the side of James Barry, tips him through. Both stay on. There's more contact. Both find the barriers. There go both of the IGL coatings and Sandra Traffic Scholar machines. Barry will look very red-faced at Vandenhert and will say, that's my title.
Well, not only his title, but that was his track as well. I thought that we would have had a little bit of a save there, but either way, Enns comes in for his penalty. So we'll see him back out, but he'll be near the back of the pack. Roca out of the race, so we're running 17. Really losing 2 cars here with as tense as things have gotten around the Nordschleife. Jake, is absolutely astounding, but if these guys dance any harder than they already are when the music stops, I think we're going to have maybe 10 cars at this rate, because they're using these more as bumper cars than they are actually radical race cars.
Yeah, so James Barry finds himself pinned in, working through Tiergarten. He left the room, got the contact, and ultimately had to try and do everything to get it stopped. He's trying, but when you go over the brakes, there's nowhere as well for Vandenherk to try and really push by. And the number 9, ultimately with nowhere to go, is going to run into the side there on that secondary run through. So the secondary contact is just that, but very tough. Through Schreidenkreuz and into Arenberg now. Your leading quartet, it now is, goes. And Andre Castro will look at this and go, perfect. Because Gullikson and Larson, nowhere in this group now. He can focus on one thing, winning this race. And that's the only thing he's got to think about right now in the Budosud number 1, because he knows he needs the championship points, and it is a guaranteed gain where he is on Horvath Gullikson.
Yeah, but at the same time, 2.2 seconds, it's still not a big lead here with all the long straights and the way that these radicals can really stretch their legs. But especially if, Vieira, Castro, Braun, and Blanco all decide they want to play battle, and you see that Castro being a little strategic, tucking underneath the rear wing of Vieira, who he just let by, because it's going to, I think the Castro's thinking, I want that slipstream, and that's what's going to help propel me up towards the front later on in this race.
Lap 2 of 4, so they're already about, I'd say, 3/8 of the way around in terms of this race, and they will now set themselves up. They've gone through the 3 corners on the left. I like to call it miss, 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 like Jimmy Broadbent does. I never hit that apex they go through, but on the exit, God, you can tell Lucas Vieira is pushing the absolute rims off of his Radical SR10, a car that sits with 375 brake horsepower. Doesn't sound much, but you consider it's about 750 kilograms. It is light, and it could take off at a moment's notice.
Yeah, these cars are very, very light, and dancing around here, around the Nürburgring, it's absolutely astounding to see how these cars are handling ground board with Rafa Blanco, and you can see how nimble these cars are through some of these very quick corners. You only have half the corners that you have to brake for in this car because of all the downforce. As James Barry makes his way up to 7th, gets around Vanderherk for that position, but now we're starting to see the dancing at the back. Here comes Andre Castro, going high, wide, and handsome. Vieira's not going to let him have it that easy. They're still side by side, and right now the American Castro takes the lead, but Braun tries to come with him, not able to do it.
Home circuit for Heinz Braun. He should know this better than anybody else. He's got that advantage to go with him. You've got a very international flair, as it's America versus Brazil versus Germany versus Uruguay. Your top 4, 2 Norwegians giving chase in 5th and 6th position at 1.5 off the back as they go through. Stangl in trouble. He's down in the pit, so his day written then as he's gone forward out on this one, and the pack still forming their own groups of 1s and 2s out there and trying to make something work. Vandenherk, one of them who's trying to work out for it, but he also is a driver who realizes he's got damage punish to his front left, and hitting the curb like that over Hoheach, the highest section of the circuit, isn't going to help James Barry the same damage.
Yeah, you definitely don't want to hit that curb on a good day that hard, especially if you're dealing with damage, want to limp the car home. You're almost halfway home from this race, but Vieira falling back ever so slightly on Castro, and that's also given a gap too to Braun and Blanco as they try and figure out, do we want to get up front or do we want to make their way up? Gullickson and Larson, the teammates sitting back there in 5th and 6th, they're still within striking distance. Remember, Jake, at the beginning of this lap, it was about 2.5 seconds. Now it's 1.7 seconds. That's why I wasn't too worried about the gap here, as you also look at Gonzaga as he's trying to close in on the number 13.
Yeah, that 13 is his teammate, Dennis Kiriakopoulos, the Swiss driver there in front, and you're trying to get yourself a note that, okay, can I get through? Can I manage these positions? One at a time would be the best way forward for it, but I don't think there's a guarantee that any single pass is going to be won and lost out there until you reach the final lap and you get through the corners. So it's starting to break up at the front here, and this is the worry for Braun and Blanco. They've got to try and stay in range. 1 second margin makes life slightly tougher, but they've got to claw it back to Vieira and Castro, who've had a wonderful second half of the lap. And so on the Dottinger Herb, they're going to spend the entire time just trying to chase. And I think Rafa Blanco knows this and realises, I can't go for the move. I'm going to have to bump draft as here comes Vieira past the tourist entrance to say, thank you very much, I'll get the pass.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that we see that pass here as now Castro does his part to try and look inside. And look at Braun and Blanco. They're like one car at this point by just touching each other nose to tail down the end of the straightaway. And Castro gets that position back. They come around the final couple of corners, and they will be halfway home from the race as already Blanco doing some blinking, but nonetheless, we are still plenty of racing left to go as Castro leads yet another lap around the Nürburgring. And I'm not sure that Blanco's going to last long in this race, Jake, because he's blinking more than a prototype driver on a GT driver in an IMSA race.
Yeah, he's struggling, and that's never a good sign to see out there, and it is a quality issue that he sits with, and he's going to need to try and get that fixed quickly before the connection flag will fly for him. But it looks like for the moment he's okay, and we'll look to try and get that gathered back as he works here through to the Quidderbacher Höhe and up to Flugplatz. A scary corner in its own right. Some cars take off and get air over the top before you run through. The amount of downforce that is there is going to make a lot of difference. As there's a pass down the order from George Gonzaga, gets by Dennis Kiriakopoulos. We'll have Chris Wett, who is there on the back for it. And I also note here, Charlie Devlin might be moving himself up to 8th and 7th soon, with Barry and Vondenherk damaged and battling as they work once again to Arenberg.
Vanda Hurkenberry still dancing around Kiriakopoulos with a little bit of a slide job, able to save it as Gonzaga does get around safely using the flash, but still, the middle of the pack has had some great battles as Gonzaga's going to lose that position once again. I think I saw Vanda Hurkenberry once again going neck and neck down the straightaway, and indeed, yeah, the dance partners really looking nice and tight. So, like I said, this is a high drafting track, and I think you're going to see those battles near the back. At the front, however, it's a little bit tighter, but it's easier said than done to get those battles done. As you see Vanda Hurkenberry, a little bit of a slide there. How we save that, I don't know. Oh boy!
Yeah, went for a roller coaster ride in Vondenherk. He was really pushing to get it done. Compression is not a corner you go too wide at and expect to see the other side. He's lucky he did up over Ardenau first, and actually on point. There goes Charlie Devlin straight on through, gets the pass done, down through over at, I believe, Callenhahn. So a nice pass there as there's your leading four still sitting. And Andre Castro, again, is turning the screw at the front of these groups. He's making them push, making them work, and it's almost covering him at most sections, up over through the tough right-hander of Exmuller. And this is where you set up and say, right, so long as I get Bergwerk correct, I am now looking at where the rest of this lap comes together, and it happened through the Caraciola carousel and onward. There, here's the pass by Charlie Devlin, straight down the inside. Thank you very and much from the Scorpio Esports driver.
Fantastic racing here. I think it's a lot of strategy. You know, where do I want to make the pass? Where do I want to be this lap? How do I want to size things up? And poor Vieira, you know, he sniffed the front for a good part of the race, but Castro's just been so good with this draft. As once again, Braun trying to hold off Blanco and make him work the hard way. Is Blanco, I mean, look, Braun's using his line, but go making that radical SR10 just a little bit wider. Nothing wrong with that, and it just makes you really think what's going to happen. Kalopoulos looking tight as well as he tries to get around, try to hold back Gonzaga, I should say. But I wouldn't hold back too much because you got Chris Wetz also reeling in these two.
Yeah, so he's looking for something. Devlin also through on James Barry, so Vondenherk sits behind that, then John Pethick. So they're together on the road, and so they're starting to form these packs, form these groups, and find the placement. So they know that they've got themselves the pass, and I think Charlie Devlin needed to make that pass. Run away is the next goal, but James Barry, one of the most experienced drivers when it comes to his radical SR10, and he knows how to wheel anything, and this is a thinking driver's car at a thinking driver's circuit. And so often we have seen in races as Devlin all over the curve, actually there, as he works himself down the hill through the fast right and left, then off of Vipperman into Eschbach corner. He is absolutely trying to ram himself away as he looks to get over towards Brunchen corner, the corner of all corners, of course, Jeremy, that you have seen in every Nürburgring crash compilation video.
Yeah, you definitely want to be careful there. And like we mentioned, there's a couple cars with left side damage. You don't want to ride that too hard. But Vanderherk, I've got to say this, what a great race for him. In spite of running into problems with James Barry, he's sitting solidly into the top 10 right now. As if Pethick does get around him, he's got a big gap right there. But the Belgian driver really showing his own at what we would call his home track right now as well. But look at that wheel there, Jake. I mean, for being on the Nürburgring, that thing is absolutely steady. It's not, you know, wiggling all over the place.
No, it's very much a static wheel, and that might be an indication of how much force feedback a driver wants, that they don't want the bumps to really knock the steering wheel out of the hand through the Kleiners carousel here, the miniature carousel, and working up for the Golden Kopf corner here, this right that leads onto the long Dottinger Herb, a straight, so straight that they can never make one like this again, and it's telling us there is another change for the lead. Vieira gets by, Castro immediately gets back into tow, trying to wrest the control back, and the way that they keep getting this run as Barry loses out now to Vondenherk, and soon John Pethick's going to get in. Andre Castro gets back in the draft halfway along, gets the pass back, and I think you sit yourself down and say, right, I am going to be looking at this, and I actually might want to be first on the Dottinger Herb going on to the final lap, or I might want to be Heinz Braun as James Barry gets on the radio and says, hey, look, I'm really struggling. I can't find a way to make this work, and I need everything to go the way that is necessary to go and make my positions, and I'm just trying to hold on between now and the end of this race.
And of course, you've got several miles to do so as we are on the final lap of this race. And you know, we always ask, where do you want to be at the end of this race? Honestly, I think Castro's had the great strategy all race long. You know what, Lucas, you want to get ahead of me? That's fine. I'm just going to get you in that straightaway. But now Lucas has to think, how am I going to defend going into those final couple of corners? Because that's where Castro always has his number. That's going to be interesting to find out. And of course, you also got the Vanderherk-Barry battle right there as you see your leaders working their way through the first portion of the racetrack. Castro and Vieira are opening up a little bit bigger gap between Braun and Blanco. Gullickson, I guess we can finally say, Jake, that Gullickson and Larson are absolutely out of this.
Oh, that's a big lift there from Lucas Vieira. Heinz Braun might take advantage through Schwedenkreuz to Arenberg. He's not going to find the move like that, and he's going to have to do this one a little bit differently if he wants this race to be the one where he goes and wins it. Because I look at drivers like Rafa Blanco, for example, if you get a run and you have to temper it, it's going to be difficult. Look, Heinz Braun's on the blinkers right now. He wants to find a way to say, look, I'm going to distract, I'm going to find a way. Andre Castro is absolutely trying to hit every single apex to give himself as much gap as he can. Gets the breath over the Vista View then as they work over to Mezgetsfeld. Now the next section of circuit, and I would look around. Lucas Vieira, for the first time, is dialed in. I think he's wanting a pass heading towards the mute curve.
We'll see what Braun does, because yeah, now he feels like he's invigorated with that big lift by Vieira. 0.3 of a second separate your leader from Vieira and Braun. And Blanco, he's just happy to be there, but wants to get on the podium somehow, as just a good portion of laps still left in this race.
James Barry's had a spin at Ardenau first, and this has cost him time, because he's now back into 9th position here, and he's really dropping points and dropping time, and this was a golden goose opportunity to improve your championship picture. And I'm not sure James Barry is going to manage that based on the strength of the field for the iRacing Championship. So this is a huge opportunity lost, because there's no doubt the field's not going to be as strong in 7 days' time at Adelaide, because everybody loves racing here at the Nürburgring. And so this is now a set. This could be the moment for the race here, as Lucas Vieira's got himself sat at a 1/4 of a second here, and the zebra print colours of Buderson then for Andre Castro, I think is going to be numbered here at the front of this field for at least the time being, because Vieira's got to look at which way he wants to go. Inside or out? Oh my goodness, contact between them, and that was a bump nearly gone wrong, and that could have been disastrous between the pair. Now searching about, no damage on the front there for the splitter of Lucas Vieira. Castro survives for the moment, but that could have been in any other driver's hands the end of all 4 of their races.
Yeah, Castro with the quick hands as he goes just a little bit high. And of course, you know, you want to go inside or outside. You don't want to go through a driver, as Gonzaga goes up to 12th place. But Vieira trying to see what he can do here as they work through the carousel for the final time. We've got a problem with Dennis Karakopoulos. Has an issue through the roll behind these guys, but still, Castro, now he's got to look at his mirrors, because Vieira, it's just he and Vieira, motto for the win.
Yeah, hand-to-hand between those two. Kyriakopoulos came together with Chris Wetz. That's why he's done and dusted. Replay on screen, so you can see here. There goes Gonzaga. He tries to shut the door. Chris Wetz, he's just there. He's quicker than a whisper, and that is on Kyriakopoulos. And he's only got himself to blame for an incident like that, because he was too close shutting the door. And they are absolutely wringing the neck here, Castro and Vieira. Heinz Braun just simply can't hang.
No, because Braun and Blanco now know that they've got to deal with 2 of the best in Radical Cup racing this season with Castro and Vieira. They've just got one long straightaway to go. And now Vieira closes in on the Americans. It's going to be America versus Brazil for the win. And Jake, I've got to say this, I did not expect a 4-car breakaway. I expected maybe a little bit more, but still, when you've got these 4 drivers racing together, it's all bets off for the win.
Through the Stefan Beloff S, and now heading towards the Schwalbenstrand. Now this next section right up into the left. Braun chases down a miracle dive through that corner. He's taken a lot out of the time. Kleiner's carousel. How many do you want together? They're all there. They're all lining themselves up. Oh, tactical. So tactical there from Andre Castro. Drops it back to third. Braun loses out. Oh, have they all looked at each other and realised it's going to be Vieira now who's going to run away? Andre Castro's made a meal of it. Suddenly the gap's a second. He's trying to break away. Rafa Blanco now wants a spot on the podium. Oh, this is Christmas for Lucas Vieira right now. Now here comes the chance for Braun. Now he's going to have to block here. It's Andre Castro. He wants a push. There goes the lights of Rafa Blanco on the left-hand side. Not moving, not doing anything. Heinz is going to have to push, but the gap is still 3/4 of a second that they want to chase down. He needs as much help as they can. Now working through to Tiergarten. Now heading towards Hohenrain. This could be where the race is won and lost. It's only a case of hit your mark for Lucas Vieira. Andre Castro will close it down, but he realised he has let the horse bolt out out of the stable. Braun looks for a move. He's not going to find it. Blanco's going to steal a podium. They come together. A huge win for Lucas Vieira. Castro is second, and Heinz Braun will cross the line sheepishly in third.
Well, I told you, wait for those last couple of corners, and that was going to be the race. I didn't expect Vieira to basically let himself out of the barn. I've seen lesson horses bolt out of there slower, but man, what a win for the Brazilian.
Honestly, for Lucas Vieira, it's right place, right time, and he has made an absolute move of it to go and get that sorted, and I think he understands better than anybody else just how important a win like that was going to set itself up and be. And it all came to blows as they came out of the Climbers carousel, and Andre Castro just had no drive to go and work for it. Might have been a slowdown penalty, but look at this between them as they push down into T13 and then through Tiergarten. This is all about how do you hold yourself? How do you keep yourself steady? Heinz Braun realizing he's got to make a move. Last place, last chance, not an angle to do it. Opens up the door for Rafa Blanco. Oh, and how on earth he crosses the line just before. He is a lucky, lucky lad. Gets there by half a tenth. You could throw a blanket on them over the line as the last car over the line is about to cross in Cairo end. So Lucas Vieira wins this one by 0.4 of a second, beating out Heinz Braun and Rafa Blanco over the line. Horvath Gulliksen will take his points and move on to Adelaide as he's fifth, with Kjetil Larsen in sixth position. It's then Charlie Devlin seventh, ahead of John Pettick, with Philip Vondenherk in ninth and Juan Perez rounding out your top 10. You've then got James Barry and Chris Wett, who are 11th and 12th, with George Gonzaga 13th and Mika Henrik Hulkkonen in 14th position. Dennis Kyrgiakopoulos would not see the checkered flag. He'd be a lap down. So Cairo End, who had the penalty for not serving the slowdown quick enough, he'll move up to 15th, and then it will be out of the race Mitchy Stangl, Eduardo Roca and Robert Woodward, who clobbered together with Charlie Devlin in the early stages. Well, wow, what a moment that will be for many amazing drivers to go and get it sorted. We're going to get a chance to talk with some people out there. Andre Castro is here with me right now. Andre, critically, out of the Climbers carousel, was that slowdown or was that tactics?
That was tactics gone wrong.
Oh, as simple as that. But, well, you set yourself up for the race. You know you need the points. You know you're desperate for it. You got the gap over Horvath Gulliksen. James Barry absolutely nowhere for it. But ultimately, you tried to run roughshod through the entirety of that race. You were able to, through the tight and twisties, gain out to 5, 6, 7 tenths of a second. Was it just a case of not enough to break everyone away?
Yeah, 100%. It's just the track, the way the draft is. I think I was the fastest today, but they were able to stick it with my draft, and then, yeah, just tactically messed up at the end. But it's going to be a lottery there anyway with 4 cars under a blanket, you know, all drafting each other. So, yeah, it was what it was. Just wanted to win at the Nordschleife, but have to be next time, I guess.
Yeah, we could definitely hear the disappointment from you, Andre, because, you know, everyone gears it up. This is a strong field where everyone wants to try and show what they've got. We know how much it means to you, but you've still got the championship to think about. While it's not maximum points, it's the next best thing. Do you think that gives you half a chance heading to Adelaide?
I haven't really checked. I'll have to check. I think the last time I looked, it looked pretty good. So we'll just have to wait and see what kind of field shows up at Adelaide and what happens. I'm excited for Adelaide. It's a really cool track. Just hopefully we get. It was nice to have 3 splits this week. You know, definitely a bit more extra motivation again, and kind of back to the old glory days of Radical. So hopefully next week we can get some split again, and you know, we'll see. I'll just do the best I can. The championship will kind of play out the way it will. It's hard to see it's hard to know what's gonna happen, but either way, it'll be fun to close out the season there.
It absolutely will. Andre Castro then coming to the line, getting second place out there overall today. Jeremy Scott has walked down the virtual paddock. He's found himself over with the number 7 machine of Heinz Braun.
And Heinz slid your way to third place. So let's talk about that, the final corner there between you and Rafa Blanco. We'll start off with that.
Yeah, what should I say? Andre just started the game a little bit early, so I couldn't really get the corner right to stay behind Lucas. And yeah, I really hoped that Lucas would have not waved so much, so that I could push Andre a little bit earlier, and maybe never push the pusher. Don't know what Rafa would have done when he would be straight at our back in the beginning of the straight. But in the end, it was like how to get some draft, and luckily he was boxed in behind Andre. Otherwise, he would have also catch me. So in the last corner, of course, yeah, there was a try to go for the inside, but not really wanted to touch Andre. So then a small touch and rear spinning tires. So it looked a little bit unlucky over the line.
Either way, you still slid your way into third place. But one thing that Andre said was the fact that, the top four covered like a blanket all race long. What was that like for you, and how strategic did you have to be throughout the race to make sure that you could stay on the podium?
I really know that these guys are much faster when they have no draft. So I was really lucky that I had the draft over the whole of the course. There were also one time needed the help from Rafa to stay along to the last 2 laps on them. So they're really quick. So it was really good that we could the gap was never more than 1.1 second, I guess. So that was enough for me to catch on. And of course, I just tried when I was close to make them a little bit nervous, maybe forcing a mistake, doing a little flashlights here and there. But these guys are, I think, minimum 1 second faster on one lap on the Nordschleife than me. But yeah, the draft keeps these races quite entertaining and very big attention until the last corner.
We're watching a replay. You doing some agricultural work here. You can't do that till next week because the season ends at Adelaide. What are your thoughts going into that weekend?
I really like the street tracks, with the narrow barriers on the sides, but it's also like a race which can end quite soon. Just one mistake or a touch in the braking phase, and then you lose the car, and it's mostly then over when you hit the barrier quite hard. I'm a little bit, it's the first race I think we will do ever with the officials on Radical, so it's a bit new for everybody. It's maybe very interesting who does the most practicing, and then who can maybe catch another place in the championship. I really want to stay in the top 5 for the last races. I think it's quite close to Kjetil and to minimum also to Jorge Gonzaga. So we will see. I hope I can just keep until in the top 5.
Heinz, congratulations on the podium. We'll see you next week.
Thank you. Have a good night. Bye-bye.
Heinz Braun, your third place finisher. Jake, it seems like that it all boils down to how well do you finish at Adelaide, and you don't want to pull a Michael Schumacher, or you don't want to play a V8 supercar. So it's going to be interesting to see how this legendary street course runs.
Yeah, you don't want to do a Nigel Mansell either, and that could be a big factor that plays its part. June 5th, 7 days from now, you're going to want to jump in, and you're going to want to see it here from the streets of Adelaide. It's going to be an absolute thrill ride here, this championship, as it sets itself apart here with Racebot TV and, of course, here on iRacing. This is what sim racing is all about. And you see it time and time and time again, that this is where the best of the best bring themselves to the top, where they say, this is what I am capable of doing. This is where I can bring my A game out there. From Jake Sperry, Jeremy Scott, and Ramiro Augustin Cisneros, it's all about the waiting game and playing the cards right. A tactical decision from Andre Castro goes wrong, and ultimately it means that it's Vieira's day in the sun to go and smile about. He'll still take points in a championship, but he knows it all boils down to one more race, and it boils down to the streets of Adelaide to decide a champion here in your Radical Esports Cup.